Mr. Fincham, is he in the audience? Mike, what, do you have a person that would like to speak with the, on a planning commission?
No, sir. The gentleman has opted not to speak this evening, and he'll come back at a later date.
Okay. Okay. The board's going to take a 5-minute break. Reconvene the Board of Supervisors meeting. The next item on the agenda is public hearings, and the first public hearing is proposed changes to Fred Transit bus schedule in Caroline County. Who is, Mr. Fincham, you're going to...
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Beck is here
Yes,
from
I
Fred,
saw her.
and we'll briefly go over the proposed changes to the schedule.
Thank you. Ms. Beck, it's good to see you again. Been a while.
Oh, good to see you. We've been here before, usually about cuts to Fred. So this time we're glad we're here on a positive note.
Right.
We met with Alan Parton and Mike Fincham. We worked closely with them to get this new schedule, the extra hours. We listened to the passengers, and there were a couple of main things that they pointed on. One was starting earlier, ending later in the evening, so folks could get to and from work. The other one was more direct routes around the county and to and from economic points like the shopping, medical, and also into Fredericksburg. And I think we really hit on it. Glenn Jenkins, who's our operations manager, is here with me, and he worked really hard to make the schedule work. So he did a really good job on it. I just want to point out a couple of the proposed changes to the schedule. We have an additional 6 hours of daily service. The first run from Bowling Green to Carmel Church starts 45 minutes earlier, so it starts at 6:45 a.m. The last departure from Carmel Church to Bowling Green is 1 hour and 15 minutes later. It's at 6:20 p.m. The first connector to Fredericksburg is 1 hour earlier at 7:30 a.m. We have a last connector from Fredericksburg to Ladysmith is 2 hours later at 5:30. There are 2 extra connecting trips to Fredericksburg. One's at 7:30 a.m. and one is at 6:45 p.m. In addition, the schedules are straightforward and easier to understand, and the new schedules will improve on-time performance of the bus system. And we're here to answer any questions if you have them.
Questions of Ms. Beck about the schedule changes? Mr. Taylor, do you have questions?
No.
Comments?
Ms. Beck, if I may.
Go ahead.
Ms. Beck, I reviewed the schedule in depth, and I know we talked about it. And I see Mrs. Brown, who's been my biggest proponent for Fred.
She's our biggest fan.
Yes. Yes, she is, and she's one of mine, too. So we've worked together, and I'm glad to see the changes. They looked outstanding. So I appreciate it. It's going to get more folks over to Carmel Church where there are jobs, and that'd be great. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
I like the routes running from Ladysmith to Fredericksburg now, the direct, and I think that's going to help increase that flow from Ladysmith to Fredericksburg, whereas before they had to come through Bowling Green and then up Route 2 for the most part. It just made it a long, cumbersome route. So I'm pleased with the changes in the schedule as well. Okay.
And we also celebrated 10 years of service in Caroline was March. We started in March in 2002, so it's been over 10 years already. So
we've had our ups and downs, but good. I'm glad y'all stuck with us, and we appreciate what you've done.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. At this point, we're going to declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to these schedule changes?
My name is Dolores Brown. I'm in the Mackinac District. I just found out about the Fred change on Sunday or either Monday, but I did have a few minutes to look at this schedule, and it is wonderful. It's going to help a lot of people. Some people, when the bus changed earlier, I know one guy lost his job due to the time schedule, but with this one, he might be able to keep both of his jobs, get the old one back. So I just asked the board, please approve this. This is going to help people a lot around here in Caroline County, not for jobs, but to be able to go to other places too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the schedule changes? Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the schedule changes? Hearing no further comment, the public hearing is declared closed. Board comment, the board have any comments? Have any questions? How does the board wish? Please.
I'd move that we adopt the new Fred schedule. Excuse me. I'd move that we adopt the new Fred schedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Underwood, that we adopt the new Fred schedule as proposed by Fred. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. Thank you all. Appreciate it a lot. The next public hearing is an ordinance to amend the Code of Caroline County by adding the following. An ordinance to amend the Code of Caroline by adding Chapter 45, Article 5E, to require annual renewal of land disturbing permits. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you had your first reading on this proposed ordinance amendment at your last board meeting. The purpose of this amendment would be to require annual erosion and sediment control permits, which would actually give us a little better management or control of the land disturbance process. It would also bring us into conformance with the new state stormwater regulations, and would also allow us finally to actually collect fees to cover our cost of administering the erosion and sediment control program annually versus the one-time permit fees that we currently are only allowed to collect by ordinance. It is a relatively simple ordinance amendment, and I'm here if you have any questions.
All right, does anybody have questions of Mr. Fincham before we open the public hearing? Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Fincham, with this new ordinance, this will affect all disturbances of the ground, or just those from the time it's adopted forward?
Our position is it would apply to all land disturbance activities. Once you adopt the annual permit fee or the annual permit requirement, that it would apply to all existing and future land disturbance.
Okay. So there's no grandfathering at all. If you disturb the land and it sat there for 5 years, once we adopt this ordinance, you'll have to do something every year from now on.
Yes, sir, that's our position.
Which is exactly what we were trying to have happen at certain locations in the county already.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
This was written with that in mind.
Thank you very much.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Fincham. We will now declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this ordinance change? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this ordinance change? Is there anyone else or anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the ordinance change? Hearing no comment, the public hearing is declared closed. Board have comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd motion that we adopt the amendment to Chapter 45, Section Article 5E for annual renewal of land disturbing permits.
Mr. Fincham is running.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the normal process is a third reading, so you will have to address that as well.
We can put it on. Can we put it on the consent agenda?
Or you could waive that.
Can we waive that,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman? Well, I think we're ready
Yeah,
to go, and
let's-
we've got enough
let's-
things. I'd move that we waive our third reading and immediately vote on this.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Seeley. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion's carried.
Mr. Chairman, I'd motion that we amend the Code of Caroline County, Chapter 45, Article 5E, requiring annual renewal of land disturbing permits.
Second. Second. Motion made by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Seeley. To approve the ordinance to the amendment, or to amend the ordinance of Caroline County. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The next public hearing this evening The next public hearing is proposed ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 103 Taxation, Article 15 Delinquent Personal Property Taxes of the Caroline County Code to provide for the imposition of administrative and attorney's fees on delinquent real estate and personal property tax bills and other charges as permitted by state law. Ms. Kern, are you going to discuss this change?
Mr. Akers, I'm going to try. Mr. Parton said if we want to keep this moving along, that I have to get up here and do his job since he's off on a well-deserved vacation. I did go before the, as we were talking about ways to try to raise money, that our fees for admin, for the collection of delinquent personal property taxes and for real estate had been $20 for as long, on the personal property had been $20 as long as I had been there. So we're proposing that we raise the rate from $20 to $30 for each action that we take or each account that we're trying to collect. So that's basically, we want to amend that. And it would also apply to real estate. It would cover the certified costs, the additional personnel costs that it takes to prepare those delinquent collections.
Okay.
But it's my understanding that you all have had the first reading, time for the public hearing, and then I think similar to Mr. Fincham's.
Yeah, did the board have to decide whether we're going to waiver the third reading and vote on it, or whether we'll do it tonight? Thank you, Ms. Curran. Does anyone have questions of Mrs. Curran concerning this change or repeal? Thank you, Ms. Curran. You may want to have a seat close. You have the next one as well.
I do.
Okay. We will now declare the public hearing open on an ordinance to amend chapter, on an ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 103, Taxation. And you heard the explanation from Mrs. Curran. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this change? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this change? One last call. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this change? Hearing no comment, public hearing is declared closed. Board have any questions, comments from Mrs. Curran? Does the board wish to waiver the third reading, or whether we go ahead and have a third reading? Waiver? Is there a motion to waiver the?
I guess the only concern that I have is, if a person is delinquent, I don't know how much, how much of this you can actually get anyway. But I guess the other thing is, there might be someone out there who doesn't know or hadn't had a chance to see it or hadn't heard about it. And I don't even know that they would in a third reading, but I don't know that it would hurt us to wait to do that.
Now, there'll be no more public hearings. It's just be
No, it's no more public hearing, but they would it would at least be out there for that much more time,
Okay. Is that the wish of the board to, all right? The board will vote on this at the next board meeting, 22nd. The next item is, in the public hearings, is an ordinance to amend Chapter 34, checks, fraudulent, Section 34-1B of the Caroline County Code, to increase the amount charged for the passing of any check for payment of taxes or other sums due to the county and which is subsequently returned. Ms. Kern, I guess that's self-explanatory, but you may want to
It
expand
is.
on it a little.
Again, we were looking at fees that are controlled by our office, and we only have about 100 return checks during the year, but for the effort that goes into trying to collect those, sometimes we felt like it was just reimbursing the county for some of the costs that goes into that. So
What do we charge now?
we're charging $25 now on county accounts, $35 on utility accounts. So
And you're proposing going to?
to propose to go to $50, which is the maximum.
Okay.
Ms. Kern, could I ask you just two quick questions? First of all, do we add on the return check fee that our bank charges? Or does our
We
bank
have
not charge?
compensating balances, so we don't really end up paying a fee to the bank for the return checks.
Okay, so we don't have to pay, when you write a bad check, normally one bank charges and then your bank charges, so we don't have to worry about that charge?
Ours is built into our compensating balances.
Interesting. Okay, and the second one, this is unlike Mr. Fincham's, this is going to be grandfathered, so it's only checks written from today on.
Correct.
Okay, and the same is true with the other ones.
Right.
Today on. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Curran.
Thank you.
We will now declare the public hearing open. An ordinance to amend Chapter 34, checks fraudulent, Section 34-1. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this ordinance change? Is there anyone who would like to speak in support of or in opposition to this ordinance change? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this ordinance change? Hearing no comment, the public hearing is declared closed. And the board, I would imagine, have any questions of Ms. Curran? Comments? So we will put this on the 22nd agenda as well to vote on. The last public hearing this evening is the special exception 07-2011, Caroline County School Board. Owner, applicant, request a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section Standards for Special Use Permits, and Article 12, Lot Area and Other Dimensional Requirements. Section 2 of the Caroline County Zoning Ordinance on Tax Map 56-A-104, consisting of 14.2 acres, more or less. This property is located at 17176 Richmond Turnpike, Mattaponi Voting District. Mr. Finchem.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing tonight is SPEX 07-2011. The purpose of the special exception is to grant relief from the front and side setback requirements for the RP district related to the proposed expansion of the Bowling Green Elementary School. I think the board has seen generally the plans for the school expansion, and those expansions encroach both in the required front setback of 150 feet and the required side setback of 50 feet. The special exception request, or if approved, would grant the minimum relief necessary to allow the construction of the school in accordance with the plans that have been prepared and submitted to the county for review and approval. The proposed setback reductions would be to reduce the front setback from 150 feet down to 122 feet. There will still be the parking area between the school and the state road. And it'll reduce the side setback from 50 feet to 33 feet. With that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions of Mr. Finchem? Mr. Finchem, there does not seem to be any questions. We will now declare the public hearing open on special exception 07-2011. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the special exception request? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the special exception request? One last call. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the special exception request? Hearing no comments, the public hearing is declared closed. Board have any questions, comments? Thomas, you got a question?
Mr. Finchem, just a quick question. You could probably stay down there. This is yes or no. Were the fees waived in this particular application? No fees were waived? Okay. Thank you.
Other questions, other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to waive the third hearing on this, and that the school is probably going to get underway here soon. So I'd like to make a motion to waive the Caroline School Board's request for a special exception permit.
Waive the third reading.
Waive the third reading.
All right. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Taylor, that we waive the third reading on this particular special exception request. Discussion of the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. Is there a motion to approve special exception 07-2011?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request of the special exception permit in accordance with Article 12, Section, I lost the section number.
Two.
Section 2 for a special use permit in Article 12 for Section 2 and on those two particular parcels of land for the school system.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Seeler, seconded by Mr. Underwood. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. Okay. County Administrator's report.
And don't give us the same one that one gave us.
Probably can be. Been here for 5 days. I think there's a status of capital projects in under section and a calendar.
That's your report.
Alan's on
I
vacation.
like, yeah, they're good. All right, closing board comments. I'd like to remind the board and everyone else that Ladysmith Day will be on Saturday, the 19th of May. It's been a great event in the past several years. It's attracted, a couple of thousand people or more, and so I think it probably even better and bigger this year. Also, the board members, it starts at 11 o'clock. The board, some members of the board, and I don't know how many at this point, I think there may be about 3 that's committed to this point, will be making a trip to Washington to meet with their elected officials in Washington to discuss issues that are certainly important to the county. And the IDA Business Appreciation Reception will be 17th at the Visitor Center. So
That's Thursday. We're still meeting, we're meeting with the school board?
we're going to meet with the school board right now. I think, well, I guess he just left. But they are proposing the 16th at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, and they're going to work with their members to see which best suits them. We should be back from Washington about 5 o'clock, 5:30 at the latest. We will be meeting at Lewis Clark in Ladysmith. And that would be on the 16th at either 6:30 or 7 o'clock. He's going to get in touch with Mr. Culley to know what time. We're going to have to. 6:30, later it'll be, yeah. Okay? That's my comments. Mr. Black, you have closing comments?
Yeah, I just, being a teacher myself, I just make one last comment. I'd like to, for the students, not like there's a lot here of Caroline High School and all those students in the school system, wishing them luck on their state test coming up. Thank you.
Okay. I just had one question. It's 3 people right now who said they were going to Washington. If a 4th person wants to come, do we need to recess to that date possibly in case? Because if we have a 4th person to come, then we would have a quorum. I don't know how that works.
Probably need to do it 3.
It's kind of like a social meeting.
Yeah, if you're just, a public meeting doesn't include if even a majority or a quorum of 3 members of the board are going for informational purposes.
Okay.
As long as you're not transacting any public business while you're there, but you are free to, listen and get as much information and ask questions and do that as long as no decisions are made, you're fine. You can all go together.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay? Is that it, Mr. Taylor?
That's all.
Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Chairman, as we talk about funding for schools, 1993, the starting teacher salary was a meager $22,800 for starting teachers. Here in 2012, I think the starting salary for a teacher is just barely over $35,000. Again, a meager amount of money and meager increase. Certainly, I don't think we can place a value on teachers. Like I said, they are what really makes this country great. I don't want anyone to feel that the board does not appreciate, suggest in any way that teachers don't deserve a lot more than they're paid. I don't think we can pay them what they deserve. Matter of fact, that teacher in 1993 working for $22,800 was myself. That's how I know what the salary was. And I came from a business that made a heck of a lot more money than $23,000. But that's what I chose to do. I think teachers teach because there's something extra and something special about teachers. We couldn't pay teachers enough money. This board is going to continue to do all that it can to make our teachers comfortable, to pay them equitably, and put them in facilities that are attractive for not only for our county, but for people moving in, for our students. We do want the best. It's a matter of what we can afford. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Seal, you have closing comments.
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thomas?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
One last closing comment that I have, and then we do have a closed meeting session. Tonight, I certainly, I've really truly felt badly about having to close the public hearing when after on several occasions I had asked for restraint and not to applaud and not to yell and do those other things. I was disappointed from the standpoint that if not all, 90% of those people, or a large portion of those people, were teachers in our school system. And I was disappointed from the standpoint, I wonder what those same teachers would have done had they have said to their students, I don't want you doing this, or I do not want you doing that. And the student kept doing it. I'm not sure that they wouldn't have taken some pretty harsh actions at that point. They are mentors. There's no question. We appreciate and always have appreciated what our teachers, what our firefighters, what our police department do. None of those groups of people get paid what they are entitled to. Our fire people, our police department, our sheriff's office, they put their lives on the lines every single day. And they get starting pay $35,000, $36,000 or whatever the amount is. And so, yes, we do appreciate everybody, but everybody has to share in the pain. Everybody has to share in what's the pie that's given to us to work with. A comment was made earlier tonight that about tax increase wasn't supported because of $250,000 yearly cost of the YMCA. That's the furthest thing from the truth. There's not 1 cent in this budget. That was not 1 penny of that 4-cent increase to be put into the YMCA. Not 1 penny of it. Much less $250,000 that goes to the YMCA. So those comments are, they're untruths. It's not facts. And we need to stop just trying to throw out untruths to make our point of what we are trying to get across to people. So I would hope that this board would do a better job in trying to work better together in the coming months. It's not doing any good whatsoever. That having been said, there's a motion to go into closed session. Is there?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff, exemption section 2.23711A7 of the Code of Virginia, regarding specific legal matters requiring legal advice.
Is there a second?
Second, Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Underwood.
I just read what's here.
Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion is carried. The board
I move that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors certify to the best of each board member's knowledge that only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open session requirements by the Virginia law were discussed in closed session, to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered by the board.
Mr. Black, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Taylor? Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
Mr. Thomas?
I so certify.
And the chairman so certifies as well.
We need to adjourn to
6:30.
Recess to 6:30 on the 16th.
Okay, I move that we recess to 6:30, the 16th, at Lewis and Clark School for a meeting with the school board.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Seeley, that we recess to May the 16th at 6:30. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
And the board is in recess.
Recess.